In order to move items around the page to build your layouts, you first need to understand a thing that's known as the box model. All items have a box that can be given a height and width, such as your section element, your article, a div, an unordered list, a list item, and any of the H1 through H6. And there's more that can have all these properties applied to them. So basically your page is full of boxes that can be manipulated when you have lots of sections and articles and all that stuff happening on your page and nav. Every element, more than I've named, generates a box or a rectangle. Every element has the following: a content area. This is where you set your width and your height. Padding. This is the outside of the content area. Border. That's the outside. Border is outside of padding. Margin. That is outside of border. Padding, border, and margin run around all four sides of each box. You can choose to affect each side of your box differently. So you might end up with padding on the right side of a box and no padding on the left. So let's look at this here a little bit. This is what I refer to and many refer to as the content area. In your reading, there's a diagram in there where he's mentioning the content is in the space, and so it's the content area. It is the innermost portion of the box. The content area can have a width and a height applied to it. Usually you're just applying width, but sometimes you are applying height. The more that particular box contains, say, an entire layout or the whole left-hand side of your layout, the less likely it is that you'll apply height to it. Generally, this is because we want our layout to be able to grow grow vertically if we have more content in it. So the content area, that's where the content is. If you insert an image directly into your layout, it's in the content area. If you put text in your layout, you're putting it in the content area of a box. So we will begin by working with the content area, but first we will apply that universal selector to zero out this right here. You see this, we have a margin or padding, we have we want this bumping up against the sides of the browser before we do anything to zero everything out. So we have a clean slate. So I will start with a new CSS rule. And because because the star for the universal selector is something that these other options don't necessarily like, I just go with compound because it'll take pretty much anything. So we do an asterisk. I commonly call that a star. The star or asterisk is a wild card. And a wild card means anything that is on the page. In this instance, there's a number of ways to use a wildcard in coding, but in this instance it's saying anything that I can take the padding or margin off of, I'm going to, because we're going to set padding and margin. So with this star, whatever I set in this rule, it will try to apply to everything on the page. So we're going to apply this to a new style sheet because we don't have a style sheet yet. I'm going to name this main CSS. So if I were to say, if I in this wildcard were to set fonts and all sorts of stuff, it would apply to everything. I generally do that with the body tag. We'll hit on that next. But I usually use the wildcard just to zero out the padding and the margin. We're going to click apply. Okay, so did you see that? It already started to hug the side of the screen. We're going to preview in browser. So we've gone from this, where there was a little bit of space, to that, where there is no space. The next thing we'll do is work with the body tag. So let me select that in my tag inspector. Start a new rule, choose tag, and make sure I have body selected and that it's going to go into main CSS. And here I'll just go ahead and set my font just for the sake of doing so. Line height, I have a tendency to like to do something around 1.2 M's. The reason I use M's here is the reason a lot of people use M's for everything, that it responds to other settings. So if I change my font size to 12, or from 12 pixels to 10, or from 12 pixels to 16, my line height adjusts proportionately because this is a proportionate figure, so it's multiplying based off of the font size. So that's why I like doing that for M's. That way I don't have to go, okay, I'm changing this from 12 to 10, which means I have to come down here now and change this too. So it's usually somewhere around 1.2. So we will click that, and we will also set, I wasn't thinking about it until after I closed that, but we'll also set a background color. And we will save all, preview in browser. Now we've gone from this to this. Okay. So our next step is to work with that content area of the box. And in this case, what I'm going to do is when we look at the code here, we can see I have a div with an ID of wrapper that holds the whole layout, all the sections, all the articles, all the navs, everything. In this case, we only have one section, and it has an ID, which I may or may not use in this demo. And then inside that section, we have one paragraph. So I'm going to target the section tag. And I am going to choose tag, and I'm going to say that it has a width of 500 pixels. And here's the thing about that content area. It can also accept a background color, and it can accept a background image. You have already worked with that in a previous exercise. So I'm going to go ahead and apply a background color to this. I'm not going to apply a background image. There's no reason to for this demo. Oops. So we've gone from no width on this section to a width of 500 pixels and a background color. Content area takes the background color. Content area takes background images, and content area you can apply width and height to. Now we're going to double click on the rule we created and work with the next thing from the inside out. So we had content area, now we have padding. In this instance, I am going to give, no, not that much. I am going to give all four sides of the box, of the section element, the same amount of padding. You can see we've got top, right, bottom, left. All four sides, same amount. I could deselect same for all, and I could apply just padding to the top and nothing to the other sides. Any combination I want. So padding can be applied to all four sides. And just like it shows here, in CSS, you want to remember to think clockwise. It's very important. So the browser knows if I were to put four settings in a shortcut code, which I won't demo here, because you guys are mostly working with the dialog box for Dreamweaver at this point. If I were to put four settings in, it would know, oh, the first one's for top, the next one's for right, the next one's for bottom, the next one's for left. So it's always clockwise, starting at top. Top, right, bottom, left. And that is true of border, and that is true of margin. Top, right, bottom, left. So another thing about padding is it accepts, it will show the background color. So this is our box, right? This section, and we applied a gray background color to it. The padding will take on the background color of the box that it is applied to. It will also take on the background image of the box it is applied to. So first we have content area, and then we have padding.